What's that, John? You think I'm an idiot? Well, guess what? I'm listening to the Grady and Pixels podcast. It's just Bill and the podcast. Who is the idiot now?
All right. Starting the new year off in style. So, hello everybody. This is Nick.
Okay.
And this is Pixel Chat, the Grady and Pixels podcast. And as I mentioned just a moment ago, we're starting this year off a little bit differently. And instead of being joined by Shane, I'm joined by two great young lads. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
My name is Thomas Biggs, but my friends here call me Biggy Smalls, so you can just know me by that.
Long-time listeners of the podcast will recognize my name, Declan. I am a video game connoisseur, and I advise Nick on some things.
All right, yeah. So basically, these guys are back in town, and we wanted to record a podcast, so that's what we're gonna do.
Woo!
So let's start off with how we usually start things off here and talk about what we've been playing. Biggie, how about you start off? What have you been playing recently?
Well, recently in the past 2 weeks, I've been playing Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, the sequel to the critically acclaimed 2313 mod for Red Orchestra 2, Rising Storm. Instead of the Pacific Theater, it takes place, as the title implies, the Vietnam War that took place between 1959 and 1975. You can play as one of 4 armies that participated in the conflict: the United States, South Vietnam, North Vietnam, the Viet Cong, and Australia. That's 5 shit. But, and yes, it's typical Red Orchestra gameplay. It's very fun, but very realistic, kind of slow. You know, if you're used to Call of Duty, it may not be your cup of tea, but if you're into that period of history, and if you're into, like, you know, infantry simulation, things like that, then I bet you would have a lot of fun with it. And this past week they had a fun little Christmas mode called Toy Soldiers, I think, where you would play as plastic soldiers in a living room at Christmas time, and it was real cute, real fun. And yeah, I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. We were talking about that the other day with the whole, like, Christmas themed, sort of, not really like an expansion, but just like Christmas themed content for the game. I always like when games do that. Does Red Orchestra, does it have like a campaign, or is it just multiplayer?
Red Orchestra 2 does, like the base game. Rising Storm 2 do not, unfortunately. But yeah, if you're interested in that, it does have a pretty decent single player campaign.
What's the, like, multiplayer like? Is it sort of like Battlefield with, like, control points, or is it more like special?
Yes, it has control points. They're kind of like territory, so you could say it's sort of similar to operations in Battlefield 1 per se, but it's not at all the same pace as Battlefield. It's a lot slower. It's meant to be like a simulator. It's not like, 100% total realism. It's not like Arma, but it's supposed to be sort of between, like, the fast paced, like, arcade shooters and simulations. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You've been playing anything else, or just Red Orchestra?
Well, I'm still in the middle of Burial at Sea 2, the famous expansion for Bioshock Infinite. I've been working on that for about 4 years now. Still not done, but yeah, hopefully that'll be done before this year's over.
Cool. Starting it off with 2019, that's a New Year's resolution right there.
Finish it.
Declan, what have you been playing recently?
Well, for Christmas, I got Red Dead 2, and I know I'm a little late to the game. People have been playing it for months. But I'm really enjoying it. I am still in Chapter 2, despite dozens of hours in the game already. There's just so much to explore. It's an insanely large map with incredible detail. The game has its issues, which I don't know, maybe I'll go into later. But I'm enjoying it. I've also been playing a good deal of Battlefield 5. Another game I enjoy, but it also has its own issues. Other than that, some Fallout 76 visited here. Another game that has many, many issues, but
not much redeemable qualities.
Yeah.
So yeah, in terms of what I've been playing, a little mix of everything. Declan and I played some Battlefield 5 a couple weeks ago, and that was my first couple matches. Didn't play a whole lot, but if you watch the beta impressions video that I put out, a lot of that stuff sort of carries over. It does feel a little bit tweaked from the beta. There's like little things here and there that make it feel a little bit different and a little bit better. But for the most part, if you've played a Battlefield game, particularly Battlefield 1. Even I'd say if you've played a Battlefield game between Battlefield 4 and now, you should understand the feel. They feel relatively the same.
Yeah, that's right.
There's things like the genre change, I guess, from like World War II, or like heists in the form of or I guess cartel fighting in the case of Hardline and stuff like that. But for the most part, you know what you're getting with Battlefield. I haven't started the war stories yet, but I'm going to be starting those relatively soon. Playing a lot of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, having a blast with that. By the time that you are listening to this, in the future there will be a backlog review of Smash Ultimate. I did record that. But, well, yeah, you have something to look forward to. Been playing a lot of Fallout 76. Getting progressively saltier as I delve further and further into it. But I'm going to platinum the game because that's sort of what I do with all the Fallout games.
Got 3 trophies today.
Yeah, we got 3 new trophies today. Got 12 more until the platinum, so chugging along with that. And playing a little bit of Enter the Gungeon here and there still. I have a big video that's coming out soon on that, but yeah, just chipping away at a bunch of different games that I have, and also an ever-growing backlog. So I guess with that out of the way, does anybody else want to say anything about what they've been playing?
Well, I guess could I go into a bit of a Battlefield review almost?
Go for it.
Okay, so for years and years I've been playing Battlefield. Battlefield 1942 was the first FPS I ever played. I played it on the Mac, and I didn't even do multiplayer because my dad was afraid that I would get like
Viruses.
Yeah, viruses. People would hack the Mac, the family Mac computer. But it was a ton of fun just fighting the really dumb AI. And so I've loved Battlefield ever since. Put hundreds of hours into all of them, and I was really excited to see that there was going to be a World War II Battlefield. But obviously that first trailer, there was a lot of controversy around it because it didn't seem like a real battlefield. And obviously historical accuracy is something, it's an issue. But I think the game now is different from the perceptions everybody had like a couple months ago, because everyone was shitting on it. But it's, when you get your hands on it, it's a good solid Battlefield. It definitely has some problems still. I think maybe they could have delayed it like a month or so, even more.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it was kind of weird to have like the Tides of War and the last the campaign mission, The Last Tiger, come out a few weeks after the game release.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, the game came with, what was it, like 4 war story missions? 3 war story missions, and then they added a 4th one later after the fact. And then they also had certain aspects of the multiplayer that weren't there at launch. And then another big selling point, I would argue, that they talked about was their Royale mode. And as Biggie is the booing crowd from E3. That's still not even in the game yet. I don't remember when they've said that that's coming, but it's on the way in the near future. So a lot of stuff just didn't come with the game, and it's a little weird to talk about because DICE is no stranger to shipping a game with not a lot of content, as Star Wars Battlefront 1 would lead everyone to believe.
And 2.
And 2, to a certain extent. And yeah, it's interesting because on the one hand, up front, like you mentioned, you have all the people like attacking the game or criticizing it for the historical inaccuracy sort of debacle. And then the game comes out, those issues kind of fade away, but then there's new issues of it being just not... It could have spent a little bit longer in the oven. Exactly.
Like, I think Battlefield 1 definitely got off on a better foot when it came out. It was clear that they put more work into that. Again, it's a fun game, but there are just some issues that kind of keep it back. Like, lack of content is an issue, I think. I think there are 8 maps, maybe, and that's a bit of a low number.
It's 8 maps, and isn't it like 2 maps per like region?
Right, it's like 2 snow, 2 desert, two kind of
France. It's like France,
yeah,
right?
two in France and two in Holland, and they're cool maps, but it's still a little limited. You know, you're playing on the same thing a lot. I think that another big thing that I have an issue with is lack of weapons, which you don't usually see in Battlefield. I mean, Battlefield 1 had a shitload of weapons. Battlefield 3 and 4 obviously had tons, even more than one. But you notice a distinct lack of the classic like World War II weaponry and factions, even, because so far it's only British and Germans in the game. No Russians, Americans.
French?
There are... You know what? No, there aren't any French.
Yeah, not in multiplayer.
So, like, I know those are things that are going to be coming out in the updates, but you still wish that, like, the M1 Garand would be in the game right off the bat, or something like that.
Yeah, and they've talked about how this is the first Battlefield, right, that's doing free content patches, no more season pass,
Right.
paying for maps and weapons and all that. So all that stuff is going to be coming in the future. But it is weird as an early adopter when you're missing seemingly large chunks of what the war is known for. We talked about this probably in some other videos and stuff, but they just came out of the gate weird with this one. And
Yeah.
like they were talking at that initial reveal event about how they wanted this to be like the most immersive Battlefield to date, and like they really wanted to put you in the boots of the soldiers and all that. But then they do a 180 at the end, and it's not the World War II that you think you know.
Right.
And I think that really it seems like it was a core design philosophy. The more you look into it, to do something different, like focusing on the other theaters that maybe don't get enough attention. But then it also permeated a little bit deeper, and it's like, well, there's a lot here that you think you should be seeing that you're not seeing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think their problem was that they didn't really have a consistent message from the beginning. It's almost as if they were competing interests within the development team, or between the development team and the publishing team, and it's nothing. It didn't feel like that they knew they wanted to say, almost, and that was confusing a lot of followers and making people angry. And I feel like it just kind of stumbled a lot when it first came out, and it's still stumbling quite a bit.
And something that we were talking about too. It's like the decision to have like Trevor Noah show off your game, like that.
Least funny man in the world.
that basically came out of left field. It was just like, yep, we're revealing the new Battlefield, and it's hosted by Trevor Noah. It's like,
okay,
who? Why? I don't know about that. But is there anything else you wanted to say about Battlefield?
Yeah, I guess going back to like the core design issues, it's funny because like I remember us having conversations years ago about like what we wish a future Battlefield would have, as in, you know, going back to World War II and seeing theaters that weren't exposed in other games. And theoretically, that's what we got, but it's almost like they went too far, because I think it is very cool and important to show things that are really never exposed to the general audience of video games. But at the same time, I do think that it's important to not do fan service, but, you know, pay homage at least to some of the most important parts of World War II.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they will eventually in the future, but yeah, people are disappointed that there isn't anything like that at the beginning.
Right.
And
like that,
it also depends on the rate of content coming out, I think, because if they have a steady stream of content, maybe we're getting new weapons or a new map or something every month, then I think that would keep player engagement, and everybody would be like, all right, let's keep our eyes focused on Battlefield. We might move around a little bit, but like, let's keep focusing on Battlefield. Oh, new map just came out. 5 new weapons just dropped. Let's hop back in and try them out and everything. I do not remember where I was going with that. But basically, yeah, I think by the time the game is finished with its DLC run, likely in a year or so, it'll probably be a very different looking game than what it is now.
Yeah.
It'll
much for the better.
It'll look like a complete game.
Do you think it's going to be a year? The Battlefield 1 was 2 years. Maybe it was a different method of releasing new content, but do you think it's going to only take 1 year?
I mean, it could take more than 1 year. I'm thinking that are likely starting development on Battlefront 3 now,
Mhm.
at least a portion of their studio.
Mhm.
I don't know how DICE is organized, if they have multiple teams or if it's just one team and they alternate from Battlefield to Battlefront, but they obviously are going to capitalize on Episode 9, so a big portion of them, probably, I would guess once the Battle Royale mode comes out, that's when a big portion of the team will move on to Battlefront. So I don't know how long or how much content they even have planned for Battlefield.
Right. Yeah, it's always hard to tell. I mean, the whole like games as a service, free, no like paid DLC is just ambiguous because they don't honestly have to deliver anything technically, because it's this really weird realm of microtransactions funding future development that might come around, might not. Obviously, I hope that they have the bulk of the content come out within a year,
Mm-hmm.
because I really don't want to see a Battlefield 5 where,
It's the same as Battlefront 2.
right, where it's like a few months from now, it's like the player base is just dropping and there isn't much content beyond what we had at launch. So I hope they continue with like Tides of War, keeping that strong and working out the kinks of the game.
Get us to 1945.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start introducing all those other aspects of World War II. Anything else you guys want to talk about real quick before we move on to our most anticipated games of 2019?
I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Red Dead 2, but you have talked about that on the podcast before.
Do you have some thoughts, a new perspective?
Yeah, I guess I do. So, of course, I played the first Red Dead Redemption. Never played Revolver. I almost don't consider that like a real game. Obviously, Nick has it, and he played through it. I saw some screenshots and thought, what the hell? But, I love Redemption 1. It's something I've put hundreds of hours into, and I can tell that Red Dead 2 is going to be the same way. Again, it has its own issues, usually with mechanics, that kind of just keep me from seeing it as like the perfect game that I could just sink so many hours into. Mainly it's like stuff with the weapon wheel and things that aren't just very intuitive.
The horses resetting your loadout, that sort of thing.
Right, that can get really frustrating, and I know that a lot of people have complained about that. So it's something that I hope they work on. I'm not sure. I mean, the game has been out for like a month or two by now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they'll fix it, maybe they won't. I know I'll adjust it either way, because I still have like 99% of the map to uncover, essentially. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. Multiplayer is something that I've never enjoyed from Rockstar, honestly. I just always get griefed, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying it out a lot in the past few days. I'll keep at it.
We've talked about our grievances with Rockstar multiplayer and the odyssey of the nobodies that can't speak and the microtransactions and all that. So I don't think that needs any further comment.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that you're enjoying your time with the game. It seems like it's a lot of people are impressed with the level of detail that they put into the game, but it seems like a very divisive game from Rockstar, which it didn't seem like GTA 5 necessarily was at launch. It seemed like GTA 5 kind of just stole all the air in the room, and it continues to be on top 10 best-selling lists 5 years after, 6 years now. We're in 2019. 6 years after it initially comes out, and which is also crazy to think about. That GTA 5 is already 6 years old.
Yeah.
But just Red Dead. It's been an interesting experience, to say the least, and I'm sure it made them quite a bit of money. Obviously,
Yeah.
we were talking about it a little bit yesterday, but we can say it in front for the people out there in the cyberspace. Do you think Rockstar is looking to make a Redemption 3? You obviously aren't through the story yet, so we won't spoil anything.
Right.
But do you think that they are looking at this as a permanent franchise, or do you think that Rockstar is just going to do what they do best and defy expectation?
I don't really see them doing a Redemption 3, just because I feel like they've not saturated, but like they've gotten a lot out of the Western theme, essentially. It seems like, I don't know if they would try and move back further in time with 3 or even further ahead, which would kind of almost remove the Western elements. But I have a feeling that they're going to move on to different things. I mean, I certainly wouldn't turn my nose up at another amazing game from them, but I don't quite see them doing another Redemption.
Mm-hmm. Biggie, what do you think?
I
Redemption on the horizon?
I kind of agree with Declan in that they're probably not going to continue the Redemption storyline. However, I do see them maybe doing a new story set in the same universe or the same similar kind of setting. As regards for going backward or forwards, I believe there's potential for going forwards even a little more, because like in the 1920s, even into the 30s, there were still lots of frontier areas in the world, like the more remote parts of the West and up in like Alaska. I feel like there could be like real interesting things done with that, where you see more of the modern world creeping into the rural areas, but it's still got that kind of old feel to it. And I think playing with that could, if it's done right, it could be really fun.
Western and Alaska sounds really interesting.
Yeah, because like even into like the 1960s, it was still kind of like that kind of Wild West frontiersman kind of living. And so yeah, that could be really interesting. We'll see. Have to see what they do.
Yeah, I think it was released recently. I don't know if you guys knew or not, but Rockstar had a trademark IP for a game called Agent for a very long time. Not much was known about it, but I think Shane told me recently that it was silently canceled. So we're not going to see that, but there is like a logo. I think they showed it off at the end of an old E3 presentation or something like that. But we're not going to likely be seeing anything of Agent. So there's been some rumors of a Bully 2 being put into development. Not sure. I would like to see a Bully 2, but I'm not sure if that is necessarily where they're going right after Red Dead Redemption.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to assume that they're not giving up on Grand Theft Auto. So that will be coming down the line. It'll be interesting, though. Rockstar was one of those groups, sort of like Bethesda in a way, that they used to publish a lot of games in a shorter amount of time, and now we will go large gaps of time without hearing a peep from either of them. So
Yeah.
I would like to see some more games, obviously, from Rockstar, because they are so good, but obviously they don't really do what everyone else does, so they can take their time and ship a good product. Not a Fallout 76. Let's see how many times we can shit on that game during this. Another big thing that we wanted to talk about with this podcast is our 2019 most anticipated games. I'm sure a lot of different outlets are doing this because it's just kind of the thing to do. You talk about the Game Awards when the Game Awards are going around. You talk about E3 when E3 is going on. And when it's the new year, you talk about what's coming in the future. So basically, I guess I'll start off with some stuff that I'm looking forward to. More casually, I look forward to the release of Kingdom Hearts 3. I've played 2 games in the series. I've played 2 of the handheld games, but I haven't played the main numbered series, which might surprise some people. But I do have the HD collection on the PlayStation 4, and I intend on playing them soon. But Kingdom Hearts 3 has been in development, I guess, for a very, very long time. Kingdom Hearts 2 didn't come out it came out in 2004. So it's one of those like Duke Nukem Forever, Final Fantasy 15 sort of dealios, where it's just in limbo for a long time. But fairly certain that it's launching this month. No more delays. I'm pretty sure it's been delayed like 3 or 4 times already. But that game's going to make a big splash when it comes out. It's obviously going to benefit a lot with the Disney partnership, just because this is the first time, if you don't know, it's a mixture of like Final Fantasy and Disney. In the past, they did a lot of like the 2D Disney stuff, a lot of Mickey Mouse. There's like Steamboat Willie kind of things, Sleeping Beauty, that sort of thing. And then in this game, they are dipping into a lot of Pixar stuff. So there's like a world all about Toy Story. There's a world all about Big Hero 6. A whole world about Pirates of the Caribbean, which they also had in an older game. But it's like new and like super HD and all that. So I think Kingdom Hearts will be a really interesting game. Don't think I'm going to be getting it at launch, but I will probably get it at some point when it's substantially cheaper.
Would they be able to incorporate Star Wars into Kingdom Hearts?
That's
due to the
something that
IP
a lot of
changes?
people have been talking about. I think they've revealed all that's going to be in the game, and Star Wars isn't there. The thing that I'm not sure about, there could be some like Easter eggs or like hidden stuff that you might be able to unlock in terms of Star Wars. Famous weapon of Kingdom Hearts is a key sword. It's called a Keyblade.
Mhm.
And I always thought it would be cool if they had like a lightsaber Keyblade. Like if they were going to do something with Star Wars. It's just kind of like one of those things that I think would be neat to see. But yeah, I don't think there's any Star Wars content in it. Probably a lot of different hands that would have to exchange to be able to get that in. Because like you are dealing with Disney, but then you also got to go with like Lucasfilm and all that. And Marvel, if you were doing any Marvel stuff that they have. So
Of course.
yeah, I don't think there's anything Star Wars in it. But another game that I'm looking forward to is Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice. That's the new entry from Software. Newly famous for their Souls series, but they've actually been around for quite some time. Shadows Die Twice looks to be really cool. The Souls series is more so known for their like sword and board kind of methodical sword shield blocking, rolling, that sort of thing. And Shadows Die Twice seems to really be leaning more into faster paced action.
Kind of like Bloodborne, in a way.
Yeah, like Bloodborne, but I would say even more so than Bloodborne, because now we're getting into like jumping, which we've never really been able to do
Right.
in a Soulsborne game. Action just looks a lot more fast paced. The traversal looks really cool. You have this cool like grappling arm that you can use to get up to higher spaces. Usually in like a Souls or anything like that, you'd be trekking around an area for a while and then you'd knock down a ladder or something and be able to get up high. But now it seems like the levels are going to be a lot more open because of the new traversal mechanics. And there's also, as the name would imply, a neat dying mechanic where you basically get a fake out death. Whenever you die, you'll be laying there and you can die and the enemy can like walk away for a bit, and then you can choose to respawn there free of charge and go in for your second strike and continue your fight that way. But then there's some sort of currency or something, I think, that if you want to keep respawning, you would end up spending. Or conversely, it'd be like a normal Souls game. You die, respawn back at your checkpoint, all the enemies are rezzed again, and you just go through, continue fighting. But it's going with like a more samurai aesthetic, Japanese stuff, which 2019 is basically going to be the year of the samurai. Got a lot of samurai games out of nowhere. Yeah, that game looks really cool. What are some games that you guys are looking forward to?
Well, I am looking forward to Sekiro. I somewhat recently played through Dark Souls 3. I haven't played the other Souls games, but I've watched playthroughs of them all, and I think it's a really interesting series. Sekiro, I love for the setting. I think that's really cool for them to move kind of in a different direction. Moving from medieval to, of course, Japan and stuff. For Souls, I was always kind of like more of a fan of the slow-paced, but I can try and adapt to the quicker speed of Sekiro. It's something that I'm sure I won't get it at launch, but it's definitely something I want to try out. I guess another game that we don't know exactly when it'll be coming out, but we've heard a lot about is The Outer Worlds. That's something that I'm really, really looking forward to. I'm sure you guys are too, because it's kind of a blend of games that we all play.
Mm-hmm. As any other video would tell you, it's basically the Fallout game that we didn't get with Fallout 4 or Fallout 76.
Right.
Obsidian back at the helm, and they really want to push the information that it's from the original creators of Fallout and the developers of everyone's favorite Fallout, New Vegas. So, yeah, Biggie, what do you think about Outer Worlds?
Yeah, I'm really excited for Outer Worlds 2. I saw the trailer and some gameplay just yesterday, and yeah, it looks exactly like what you said. Yeah, it looks very much like the Fallout game that we've been wanting for a while. From what I've seen, looks like an interesting story, interesting content. I like the kind of like retro future vibe that they're going for. That's not just a rehash of what's in Fallout, but it still feels kind of familiar, and it just look like it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think I'm definitely going to give it a try when it comes around.
Yeah, I really like the aesthetic they went for. I like what you said, that it looks like retro future still, but it's not anything you would find in Fallout. It reminds me a lot of a mix of Fallout and Borderlands.
Exactly.
Because they, like, Borderlands has a big emphasis on all these, like, corporations that took everything over. And that seems to be like a similar theme with the Outer Worlds. And I think that having the original creators of Fallout on board, they created this world that we all think is really awesome and unique. And I think that I think they said whenever they revealed the game, this is the first time that they've worked together in like a really long time on a project. So that's really exciting to see, like, a whole brand new world to discover. It's not open world or anything. It's an open area, I think, which is different than what people might be expecting. Just looking at the trailer and having all the connotations to Fallout and everything. But I think it's a smarter choice for Obsidian to go that route than to do open world and have it potentially be a little bit more buggy and not as stable.
Like they've said, it's not a AAA game; it's AA. They're kind of sticking to their abilities, as they're not like how they were when they were working on New Vegas, where they were building off of Bethesda. They have Microsoft support, but they're keeping it realistic, which I think is going to turn out into a really, really good game.
And I think they're doing a good job of keeping fan expectations in the right place.
Right.
So, yeah, Outer Worlds looks awesome. That'll probably be like my most anticipated game, I'd say, just because I think everybody's itching for that sort of experience that we haven't gotten in a while.
Right.
So I think that's definitely going to be a fun game.
I'm curious if they're going to have a lot of Fallout New Vegas Easter eggs throughout it.
I wouldn't be surprised. Like
that Wild Wasteland stuff.
Yeah. I did see that they have like the skill checks and the dialogue system and everything. That'll obviously be fun, and I'm guessing if they're applying the same design philosophies as they did with New Vegas, the game's probably going to be really replayable. If there's one hope that I have in the RPG mechanics, and it's more or less like I'm pretty sure that they're going to go this way. I would like it if they're a little bit restrictive in how you choose to set up your character. As we've seen with like Fallout 4, eventually, as long as you play long enough, you can pretty much become a god of everything. You can max out all your specials. None of it really matters anymore. Whereas in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, it seems like you set up your character at the beginning and you're pretty much sticking with those sort of skills throughout the entire game. Obviously, you get new perks and everything to get new abilities or new options,
and those drugs.
Yeah, and drugs. But for the most part, you're sticking with what you set out at the beginning. It's like, all right, I'm going max strength and I'm going to be an idiot, like running through it. So I hope they have that same sort of level of restriction to reinforce like multiple playthroughs.
Right, like in Fallout 3, you have to be pretty careful about what you choose to pick as perks, and like make sure you find skill books and all the bobbleheads and stuff to try and get your skills as high as possible. And even then, you're not going to get, like, you probably won't get max special and everything. And so, yeah, it keeps you grounded, and it does make it more fun for replaying, because you're thinking like, okay, I didn't do that super efficiently on my last one. I'll go through again and try again.
One thing that I've been wondering about, I might need to fact check this later, but I believe they said that there's like 2 main worlds that you'll be traveling through, like planets. Do you think that they, with like the space setting or anything like that, that they are going to include some sort of flying mini game or gameplay? Or do you think it's going to be something like a Destiny or a Mass Effect Andromeda, where you're flying, but you're not really controlling anything? It's more or less just a cutscene or a loading screen that's hidden. What do you guys think? Do you think they're going to do any sort of flight?
I don't think it's going to be like No Man's Sky, like being in complete control of a spacecraft. I can see them potentially doing something like in Knights of the Old Republic, where you have a kind of like gunner mini game or something when you're going to a new planet.
I haven't actually played them, but they have already referenced Knights of the Old Republic as some design philosophies, especially in the open areas. They said that's sort of the game that they're looking at for their world space design. So, have you played them?
I have not. I've just I've watched other people play them because I have a lot of friends who say it's a really good game, and it's not another thing that's on my list. But I've seen, when you go to a new planet and it's like you get attacked by like Sith fighters or something, you have to get on kind of like you're in a ship that's kind of like the Millennium Falcon. You have to get on the gun turret and fight them off before you can land. So I mean, maybe they'll do something sort of like that, like involving spacecraft. But I would not think they're gonna do like full-fledged flying.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like the kind of thing you'd see from an Obsidian game or RPG.
Yeah.
Right. That like adding some sort of real flying mechanics seems like it would be reaching beyond what they're really going for. Like, yeah, I think they are going to keep it more grounded, where it's something like a cutscene or maybe a small mini game almost.
Do you think we're going to get that in Starfield? Because obviously the comparisons to Starfield are going to be made for years to come, no
Right.
matter what Starfield ends up being. Do you think Starfield, with Todd Howard claiming that it's their most ambitious game ever, do you think they're going to try to do some sort of vehicular mechanic?
I think so, yeah. Obviously, I mean, we haven't seen real vehicle gameplay from Bethesda before. It'll be exciting to see, because obviously they have a lot of time to do it. Hopefully they don't rush it again.
Yeah. The closest thing I could think to vehicle gameplay we've gotten is dragon riding in Skyrim.
I guess, yeah.
I've never done it, so I don't know how much control you have over it, but...
It's not much. I remember I played a little bit. It's like, you can kind of circle around. It's not a whole lot. It's like, maybe you could also compare it to like horses in Skyrim. But yeah, that's really as close as we've gotten.
Yeah, definitely Outer Worlds is definitely one that we're all probably going to be picking up. Biggie, do you have any games you're looking forward to?
Yeah, we'll mix it up here a little bit. I want to talk about Tropico 6. It's probably my other most anticipated release for 2019. Been a big fan of the Tropico series for a long time, and Tropico 5, I enjoyed the new eras mechanic you had. Like, instead of just being a dictator of an island nation during the Cold War, you start in like the 19th century and go through the World Wars era, then the Cold War, then the modern times. That was a really ambitious, really cool idea. I feel like it was kind of oversimplified, though. I mean, obviously because of constraints and such. So Tropico 6, I'm looking forward to seeing that expanded on a little. Like, all the arrows will feel maybe a little more fleshed out and a little more distinct from each other. I'm also extremely excited about, instead of just controlling one island, you're going to control multiple islands. You can connect them with bridges and tunnels and have multiple cities. It'll feel more this time like you're running an actual country rather than just a city. So that sounds like it's going to be really cool. It's going to feel like bigger than it used to be. You can go to war with other islands. You can go to war with other nations, and they're just going to be adding all kinds of new mechanics to more accurately simulate, the being a country and things like that.
So, what kind of game is Tropico? I haven't played any of them. I think you got me one as a gift, but I haven't gotten around to playing it yet. Is it kind of like a Civ style game, or?
I'd say it's kind of like a cross between SimCity and like a political simulator. It's like the premise is that you're a dictator of an island nation in the Caribbean in the 20th century, and you can choose like to be what kind of ruler you're going to be. Are you going to be like a democratically elected president? Or are you going to be a dictator who rules with an iron fist and executes people whose politics he doesn't like? Are you going to be closer with the United States or the Soviet Union? How's your military going to be? What are you going to do about the rebels hiding in the woods? Or are you so good that there are no rebels around? What buildings are you going to build? What kind of housing are you going to provide for your people? Or are you going to have people living in shacks next to your palace? Or are you going to build mansions for everyone? Fun stuff like that where you can play with your morals and such. And it's just there's lots of like political satire. It's very enjoyable, and it's not hard to learn either. You can pick it up pretty quickly.
That's cool. That's always the one thing that has daunted me about Civ. It seems like a very mechanically intensive game that you really need to sit down and focus on to get. But if you're saying that Tropico is more like a, not necessarily casual, but more easy to dive in, that makes me more excited about it.
I would say so. Yeah, it's pretty easy to get into.
How many Tropico games have you played?
I've played all of 4 and all of 5, and then I'm looking forward to 6. Tropico 3 and 4 are very similar to each other. So like if you played 1, it's pretty much seen everything that's in the other.
Mm-hmm.
Tropico 6, one thing I'm not looking forward to is the whole like stealing landmarks thing. I think that looks kind of dumb. Like I know Tropico's never been like a serious political simulator, but I think that's a little too over the top. So I'm probably not going to play that. But I am excited for all the other things that they say they're going to be doing though. Oh, the new Metro
There's-
game's coming out this year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Metro
Exodus.
In my brain right there, I went Metro 2033. No. Metro Last Light. No. And then we eventually got to Exodus.
ding.
Metro.
Yeah, so I forget when it came out, but I played Metro Last Light. I think I probably got it at launch because I just really loved the aesthetic of it. And because I had the PS3, I never had the chance to play 2033. This was before they released that like bundle. of
Yeah,
the two of them.
before they released Metro Redo.
Right. And it's honestly hard to tell. I'm not sure if I enjoyed Metro Last Light. There are some aspects of it, like the world that they built is really incredible. But sometimes the gameplay is like, okay, you have to get to this end of the tunnel, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you fight your way through there, collect some ammo. But I felt it was a little disjointed in a way. And kind of the way the story was told, I never got a true connection to it. I mean, Metro Exodus, I think that, again, the world that they're building looks really cool. But it's definitely something I'm going to wait to see, like, how it really turns out. Get some reviews on it, and then maybe I'll try it out.
It's another game that they're doing open areas, which is pretty much what Metro has been. Each mission's more or less been I mean, it's fairly linear, especially whenever you're down in the Metro tunnels.
Sometimes you're quite literally railroaded because you have to take, like, a rail cart over
Yeah.
down through a tunnel.
So we'll see how the open areas go. I will say the game, like you said, it looks really great. It looks like more Metro, and it looks like a new Metro game, basically, is what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And I think the one thing that is interesting, though, is that I don't know if this is just where we're at with graphical fidelity, but Last Light definitely seemed like a huge improvement over 2033. I don't really get the same sensation with this game. This game just looks like more Metro to me. So I don't know where exactly their graphical fidelity like improvements are coming, because a lot of people use Last Light as a big PC benchmark. Like, if you can run this on like your max settings, like this is like fantastic. Like the original Crysis, that used to be a big graphical benchmark for gaming PCs and all that. And I'm just wondering if Metro Exodus is going to continue that sort of tradition.
That's interesting to me because it's like my point of view is based on the console.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think in basically just the two generations of PS3 and PS4, which are the only ones that I've had. So, I mean, Metro Last Light on the PS3, it seems like Exodus should be a massive jump going to the PS4. But, yeah, I mean, based on the trailers and stuff, I have to agree that it doesn't seem like it's really pushing those boundaries.
What do you think, Biggie?
I mean, I haven't played any of the Metro series, I'm going to admit, so I don't know how much I can say about this, but
Mhm.
as a person who plays mostly on PC, being a benchmark is something that can really make or break your game. It may make it not as accessible for other people, so I mean, I wouldn't be too broken up if it's not like, pushing those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because most of us aren't going to have NASA computers,
Yeah.
But I mean, it would be cool though to see like if they can do be like the Last Light of this generation.
Mm-hmm. I heard some early rumblings of like people that have gotten their hands on it early, and that apparently it was in a little bit of rough shape for earlier builds. That AI was pretty basic and all that. So those were probably from builds from a couple months ago. So I'm hoping that gets tied up a little bit more. I'm pretty sure the release date got pushed a week earlier because the game might be gold already. I'm not positive on that. I'm not positive on a lot of this stuff, but I'm pretty sure the game it was set to come out on the really popular day. I think it's like March 25th or February 25th, one of those. There's like a bunch of games coming out, and they decided to go a week earlier, which doesn't usually happen.
There's Rage 2.
Rage 2,
Uh,
a surprise reveal last year, leaked by Walmart Canada.
yeah. Interesting. I forget, what is the... I mean, I know it's Bethesda, but it's not BGS.
Rage 2 is being co-developed by id Software and Avalanche Studios. Id primarily developed the first Rage, and Avalanche, in this regard, would best be known for their work on the Mad Max PS4 and Xbox One game. It seems to me, looking at like the trailers and the gameplay for Rage 2, that id was more so focused on your ground and combat sort of things, and Avalanche really took into the vehicle combat, because those are the two like paradigms of Rage 2.
I think, yeah, that seems pretty interesting. I mean, I played Mad Max, and it's a pretty enjoyable game, especially considering how it seemed to fly under the radar, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got to it a little late, but I really enjoyed it. It was definitely worth the money.
And one of the highlights of it being the vehicle combat.
Exactly, yeah. And so if they kind of like transplant that into Rage 2, which looks like a really interesting world, I mean, I get a real Borderlands feel from it. I think that'll be really interesting.
This game definitely has more of an identity than the first one. The first one, it does a lot of cool things, but similar to what you said, it sort of flew under the radar, I think, or maybe it didn't live up to what people thought. This was before the remake of Doom came out, so id was kind of in a weird place. They were post Doom 3. They launched Rage, and it wasn't a 10 out of 10 game. It was, I think, probably like a lot of 7s and 8s. Again, I'd have to check that. But this game definitely seems that they put a lot more effort into making it have its own identity. It's definitely leaning into that, especially with the marketing and the social media tie-ins that they keep doing with it. But yeah, and I think the most interesting component of it is what we talked about, is that it's two different studios kind of collaborating on it. We don't really see that a whole lot. Todd Howard mentioned in Fallout 4's development that they would like tap the shoulders of people at id and stuff to help them with like gunplay, but I wouldn't really say that was like a collaborative game.
Right.
This one, they're really highlighting that it's Avalanche and id Software coming together, and I think that this might be a look into future possibilities of other studios doing this, which I think would be really interesting.
Yeah. Well, Anthem.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Anthem.
I feel like, gosh, when was that first seen?
I believe it was like 2 years ago they showed it off at an E3 press conference.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think even when it was first shown, I was like lukewarm at best. And it seems like they're not really showing anything new.
They didn't increase or decrease the temperature of that lukewarm.
Right.
Yeah, Anthem... It looks like Destiny to me, and I'm not hot on Destiny. And the only thing... It's Destiny with Iron Man suits, is basically how I rationalize it in my head. The suits look cool to fly around in, but other than that, you're getting your gold tier weapon loot drops, and you're shooting enemies with numbers coming out of them, and it just doesn't seem that interesting to me.
That doesn't sound interesting to me either.
Yeah, see, I, like a few months ago, I started playing Destiny 2 because I got it free, and I did actually put a lot of time into it, but, I mean, once Battlefield 5 came out, I really stopped playing that, and with Red Dead, it's like, I don't really see myself going back to Destiny 2, even though I did enjoy it. I think it was, like, I was in really a kind of dry patch of not having a new game to play, so I kind of clung onto that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see Anthem with that similar feel really having a chance, at least in my like schedule of games, when I'll be thinking of continuing Red Dead and seeing the Outer Worlds and all that.
And they're really leaning into this being a big BioWare game, but I think a lot of people don't realize that the BioWare that made a lot of the games that people think of as BioWare's golden age isn't really there anymore. They've had a lot of people leave the company over the past years, including Casey Hudson, who's come back to BioWare to do this game. So I just don't think that I don't think that the name BioWare necessarily is enough to carry this game,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think it looks like much special, especially in today's climate. Like the looter shooter kind of thing is just like a dime a dozen these days now.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know about Anthem. Days Gone. Do either of you even know what Days Gone is?
Nope.
Let's ask about that.
Okay, it's the game that a couple years ago when it was first shown, I really thought for the first like 5 minutes of its trailer that it was The Last of Us 2. Turns out it's a zombie game. It seems like it's based around one cool mechanic, and that's it, where it's like human wave zombie thing that was seen in like the World War Z movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems completely vanilla other than that.
Yeah, I did not even know what that was. But
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about Days Gone. I'm gonna be honest. It looks very bland to me. It's odd that they're releasing a zombie game. It feels like the zombie trend came and went already, and now they're just popping this out. It's like, hey, check us out. We got zombies, and then
people wait to the party.
And
it's like this game would have killed 2 years ago. Yeah,
and I mean, I believe it's a PS4 exclusive, but it seems like Sony has lost all faith in it. They have not really been pushing advertising for it. It was supposed to come out this past year, but it got delayed to this year. And I haven't seen anything about it in months, other than this Google list that has the game coming out this year. So, don't...
Speaking of Last of Us, though, is Last of Us 2, does that even have a release date yet?
It does not.
Okay.
Some people are saying 2019. I highly doubt that.
Right.
I would not say it's coming out. I would say 2020 at the earliest, but I could be wrong. I would say that 2021 would probably be a more likely year for The Last of Us Part 2. When did Uncharted 4 come out? That was like
2013?
No, 12? Not that late. It was 2016, 11? I think.
Was that the last Naughty Dog game?
Yeah. Well, unless you count Uncharted The Lost Legacy. That was like a spin-off title using the Uncharted 4 engine, and I think that came out in 2017. So, I don't know. It's weird. Last of Us came out in 2013, right?
Oof.
Yes, it
ages
did.
ago. It feels so long
2013,
ago.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it did. So, 2013 to 2016, 3-year development time. Last of Us to Uncharted. 2016, It's likely, but I don't think it's going to come out this year.
Right.
I think they would have had a date reveal of some kind by now. What might be interesting to talk about, though, is there's been a lot of rumblings that we might be seeing the new console generation revealed this year. Particularly...
Is it time already? Oh my god.
Particularly PlayStation 5, because Sony has said that they are dropping out of E3 this year. They did not hold a PlayStation Experience event this past year, and they've shown off a lot of games that sort of seem like, in hindsight, they make sense. They are pushing a lot of tech, and it may seem hard to believe that this would be running on our current gens of hardware. They look like high-end PC games that they've shown off, particularly The Last of Us Part 2 and the Sucker Punch game, Ghost of Tsushima. If we are getting new console generations announced this year, do you think Last of Us 2 is going to be a launch title or something to sell new PlayStations, or do you think it's going to come out on this gen?
I don't know. Honestly, I have not a whole lot of context, because this is actually the first time I've heard of the rumors.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
I mean, well, first off, if they do make a PlayStation 5, I'm gonna get it, because I don't know. I guess I'm a PlayStation fanboy, but I have no idea how long it might take. What is like a typical time span for like announcing a new console and it actually releasing?
So, I believe this gen started in 2013. I believe that's when the Xbox One and the PS4 both launched.
That sounds right.
And
yes.
I'm pretty sure they were either announced within the year or very late in 2012. I think we were probably hearing about rumors in 2012, and I vaguely remember it was like summer reveal events, maybe even at E3, they revealed the consoles, and then, because I remember they had a lot of information available at the time. There was Xbox One, they revealed first usually, because Microsoft usually goes first in all the E3 stuff, and they announced that the Xbox One was $500, I believe, at launch, and then PlayStation announced that it was going to be $100 less. That got a lot of people in. There was also the used games controversy where Xbox was saying that you wouldn't be able to use used games, and then Sony had the little tongue-in-cheek ad where they just were like, here's how used games work on PlayStation, and it was one person passing a game to another. So I think that if we're going to see the new console generation, we're going to hear about it this year. Microsoft has already been teasing their next Xbox, and I believe it has a code name already. So that's also on track. Xbox will definitely be interesting to look at this year because they're melding a lot of their Xbox brand with PC. So we'll see if there's even a new Xbox console that materializes from that. Who knows? But I think it'd be... Last of Us it's an interesting thing because that would clearly sell a lot of consoles if they chose to make it an exclusive. But at the same time, I wonder if there would be any sort of backlash for them showing the game off too early and maybe insinuating that this would be a PlayStation 4 game. Or they could do both. They could pull a Nintendo in which Zelda Breath of the Wild, shown off for years, still comes out on Wii U, but is also billed as a Switch launch title to sell consoles.
It's like with Twilight Princess.
Yeah, same with Twilight Princess.
History echoes. Speaking of Nintendo again, isn't the next generation's kind of already started with the Switch, hasn't it? Or would you place the Switch as part of the next generation, or as like a bridge?
Nintendo is weird. I don't think that goes without saying, but they
don't have solid generations that you can point to like PlayStation and Xbox.
The Wii sort of exists in its own area. The Wii U is more closely associated with the Xbox 360 and PS3, so I like to consider that their 7th gen. But the Wii just kind of exists somewhere in the ether off to the side. And I think with the Switch, Nintendo has put their foot down and saying that they're not really trying to capitalize on the same things that Sony and Microsoft do. They're not trying to push the envelope with like graphics and hardware. More so, they're trying to offer a different experience for people. Thus, the Switch and combining the portability and console level experiences and all that.
It's not really the same audience they're competing for.
Yeah,
right.
So I guess you could say that Nintendo's new generation started with the Switch, but I'm not sure that we would say, like, in general, that the new gen has started. Also, there's been rumors of a Switch redesign coming out soon, which would not be surprising at all. They always do that with the 3DSs and all that, so that's not super surprising on that front. Devil May Cry, we've talked about it a little bit. Shane and I have returned to form with Devil May Cry, big action game, Capcom. Capcom's having their renaissance. That game's going to be really good. I have a feeling a lot of new audience will be picking that up. The general kind of rumblings that I'm hearing is that these trailers are doing a lot for the game, and it's probably going to sell pretty well. Let's see, what else we got? You want to talk about Jump Force?
I
never
couldn't
heard of
tell
it.
you about that.
It's the anime fighting game. It has One Piece, Dragon Ball, other ones.
It's like Super Smash Brothers, but it's anime, in other words.
Not 2D, it's a 3D fighter. Do you know what the Dragon Ball, I think it's called Xenoverse or something like that?
No, I do not.
Well, they're like these weird 3D fighters that you kind of like fly around and stuff. I've heard the game's trash from people that have played it. So, Shenmue 3.
Can't tell you
Couldn't
anything
give a
about that.
Gears 5.
Gears
don't
5.
Care. I've never
Looking
played
at this
Gears
list,
5.
I can't really tell you. I mean, I recognize Ace Combat. I haven't played an Ace Combat game since 2002, so
I did.
I don't know.
The gameplay reveal for Ace Combat 7, and it actually made me think like this is a game that would make me get a VR because it was just a really cool trailer to me.
Mhm.
Even though I've never played Ace Combat before.
It's one of those games like Resident Evil 7 that I think is being advertised as fully playable in VR.
Right.
So,
I mean, if you ever made a VR game, I think things in vehicles really fit. I don't understand how you do like shooters in VR. It just doesn't seem to make sense, but you know, airplanes, tanks and stuff, it seems natural.
Absolutely.
Skull and Bones. You guys know Skull and
I
Bones?
think I remember that.
I don't know.
Did it look a lot like the Ass Creed, what was it, 6?
4, Black Flag.
Sure.
Yeah, it's made by Ubisoft, and it's made from developers of that system.
Okay.
They spun that off into its own pirate-themed game. There was a couple of trailers of it a couple years ago, and then it sort of like Days Gone has seemingly disappeared for a bit. So I don't really know what the status of that is going to be. From what I know, it was only a game where you were piloting your ships. There was no point where you ever took control of a pirate and fought. It was just ship combat. So what I'm wondering is they probably saw the lukewarm reception to Sea of Thieves and decided to take a little bit extra time with it and add some more content in, because that was the big complaint with Sea of Thieves. So we'll probably see that in the future.
Wolfenstein Youngblood. Now, is that a full game?
Good question. I don't think it is. I would probably say with Wolfenstein The New Order, you had the Old Blood sort of standalone DLC thing. I think that Wolfenstein Youngblood is going to be something in the similar vein of that. It's a co-op experience more so that could offer some new gameplay opportunities. But I think it's set in like the 80s or something, right?
Yeah.
It has like a more 80s aesthetic. So the Machine Games have been doing a really good. It's Machine Games, right?
Yeah, they've been killing it.
They've been doing really good with Wolfenstein, so I'm sure that'll be a really good game. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. This is Respawn Entertainment Star Wars game, known for Titanfall and Titanfall 2.
Right.
It's like the first non-Battlefront Star Wars game in a while.
Yeah, EA's Star Wars license is actually running out fairly soon, I'm pretty sure, and they've only shipped Battlefront and some mobile games.
They've got to be shitting the bed. I mean, if they fuck up on 3, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't know a whole lot about this. We have the logo reveal and the incredibly awkward reveal at E3 where Vince Zampella was just, I think it was Vince Zampella, he was just sitting in the audience, and they're like, "What's your new game?" "Oh, it's Jedi Fallen Order? Okay, thanks."
Moving on.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Do you think it's going to be similar to like the Jedi Knight series from like 15 years ago?
So that's sort of what I hope in my mind. Clearly, Respawn is known, as I said, for Titanfall, and they're also a bunch of ex-developers of Call of Duty. So their bread and butter, more or less, is first-person shooters. But I hope it wouldn't go to that point when you're putting Jedi in your title. Yeah. That has a very distinct sort of
not
image. Yeah. So in my mind, I would hope that it is a third-person sort of action-adventure game with Jedis, something like that.
Yeah.
What was the Star Wars game that Amy Hennig was working on? That was in the news a couple months ago because she left and then they were drastically redesigning it, they said. They had the concept like shot of like a person walking out of a cantina and a Star Destroyer up above.
That sounds really familiar. I don't remember.
I don't remember what studio was working on that, but that's another game that I don't think we necessarily know about. But I don't know. I would prefer if it were like those older Jedi Knight games, because I used to have one on the PC that I played a ton when I was a lot younger. And I think that it's definitely an area of Star Wars game that people are clamoring for. Battlefront can only carry so many people, and
I think at this point people are clamoring for anything that isn't Battlefront.
Yeah, just no microtransactions, that sort of thing, even though it's EA.
A good single-player experience.
Yeah.
I mean, could potentially also be like an RPG, like Knights of the Old Republic. That would be interesting too.
I mean, sky's the limit, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever that phrase is.
Yeah.
I'd be clamoring for anything really. So, Respawn definitely. Titanfall 2, you'd say is probably very underrated, or at least it underperformed.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for a time, it was my favorite FPS ever. Had really incredible campaign with really memorable moments. The multiplayer, well, it's a steep learning curve just because it's a lot more fast-paced than anything I'm used to. It's a ton of fun. If you stop playing it for like a week, you'll get wrecked once you try and get back into it, because the rust really builds up. But it definitely, like, its player base got crushed because of, like, Battlefield 1 coming out at basically the same time.
Yeah, I think they released it within like a week of each other.
Yeah, so that's pretty unfortunate that it really got kind of pushed aside. So, I hope that they have a good luck with this.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially if they go a different route and do like an RPG or an action game as opposed to a first-person shooter. I'm sure it'll be mechanically tight though.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
If they're good at anything, it's having really good gameplay, basically.
Yes.
Doom Eternal is on this list. Have either of you? Definitely, I know you haven't played the new Doom. Have you played the new Doom?
Have not.
It is one of the better remakes to have come out of an old franchise. I think a lot of people after Doom 3 were like, oh, it's not real Doom. It's not a story game or anything like that. And so they really went back to the roots of the original Doom and brought that back to life. And Doom 2 looks to continue that on in a really great way. A lot of great humor in the E3 presentation, or I think it was QuakeCon, actually, that they showed the game off.
Right.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play Doom, the first one that came out, a few years ago. I've been meaning to. I recently had the chance to buy a copy, but I didn't. I really like the look of it because I love Wolfenstein, although that's almost something that keeps me from it because it's like, I know that it looks so similar that mechanically they might just be too similar for me to really enjoy it, like as its own thing. But Doom Eternal looks amazing. I mean, their trailers and gameplay were incredible. It's like the most hyped that I got from, I don't know, the past year basically of like gameplay announcements and stuff like that. So I don't know if that's something that I'll get on release, but I'll be keeping my eye on.
What do you think? Did you watch any of the gameplay for Doom Eternal?
No, I have not. I don't think I can comment on it, unfortunately.
No, it's fine. It's fast-paced Doom. So if you've played the originals at all, or you are into incredibly hectic and mile-a-minute shooters, you'll find something to enjoy about Doom.
Sounds fun.
Let's see. Control we can comment on real quick. That's Remedy, their new game, known for Alan Wake, Max Payne. They've done other stuff that has been well received. They're sort of, I think, a studio that doesn't, at least for me, doesn't really come to mind at first glance, but they have been around for a really long time and they've shipped a lot of great games.
Did they do that one game about like ghosts and stuff? I forget the name.
Murdered Soul Suspect?
Yeah.
No, they didn't do that.
Okay. When I look at that, I just think of what was it, Alan Wake?
Yeah.
I haven't played any of their games. It just doesn't seem like my thing exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I haven't actually heard of Control.
Yeah, Control, it has a very interesting gameplay philosophy that they've talked about. It's a third-person shooter/action game mixed with a Metroidvania style level structure. So you'll be going through a bunch of different areas and backtracking, unlocking new paths and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks really cool. Not a whole lot more to say on that, but yeah, keep an eye out for Control.
Cuphead DLC is coming out. I've said that's another thing on my anticipated list.
Yeah, Cuphead.
Whatever it's going to be. I don't think we've heard much of anything about it yet, but
we know there's one new world and some new bosses, and it's going to be more Cuphead. So
that sounds good to me.
I was at first I was a teensy tiny bit disappointed when the announcement came that it wasn't a full sequel, that it was just DLC. But then you got to think that this is a really small team and they have to hand animate everything.
It's a lot of work.
Even just a DLC is going to be a monumental,
undertaking.
The fact they're doing it at all is pretty impressive. So
yeah. Cuphead definitely exploded, and I think it goes without saying that a lot of people considered it Microsoft's best exclusive to come out in the past couple of years. So the Cuphead DLC is definitely one that I'm probably going to be picking up day one.
Oh, me absolutely as well.
I 100%ed it on PC, got all the achievements, so that's going to be sad whenever they add new ones, and I'm going to tear my hair out and break another controller on it.
I forgot about that.
I guess the last one that I would really talk about is Session, because that is a new skateboarding game in a time that we don't have virtually any anymore. A lot of people were and are still hoping for EA to announce Skate 4. It's even become a bit of a meme that anytime something skateboarding related comes out, we got to bring up Skate 4. And Session seems to be launching to fill that void, especially after Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was a dumpster fire and left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But you guys play any skateboarding games at all?
No.
Yeah, Session, they are finding a way to iterate in a way on the control scheme. Tony Hawk, basically, you have like your buttons to do your main actions. Skate, the main actions were on the sticks. And Session, it's more like each stick controls each foot on the board. So you can like get really finessed with a bunch of your foot positions to do different moves and stuff like that.
And if you're not good, it'll be like Quap.
Yes, if you're not good,
That's what it sounds like to me.
you'll fall on your ass a lot. But I think it's a smaller studio doing it, so it's not going to be like as AAA as a Skate 4 would be. But I definitely think they're going to find some level of success on people who are clamoring for a new skateboarding game. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Well, I mean, we were recently talking about the Game Awards, and something that was rumored a lot before then, that seemed like a certainty, was that Randy Pitchford would come out and announce Borderlands 3.
Randy, what was up with that, huh? All the threes on Twitter, and you skip out on the show.
That's something that, I mean, it kept me watching the entire show because I was like, I really want to see Borderlands 3. It didn't show up. I was like, well, fuck. I mean, I love all of the Borderlands games. I can't wait for 3. I mean, I wish that it would have been announced and that it could come out this year, but it looks like it won't be.
If leaked information is to be believed, we will be getting an announcement at some point in this first half or first quarter of this year of Borderlands 3. I heard one rumor that apparently there was supposed to be an announcement at the Game Awards but got pulled late. I don't think I believe that necessarily, but after having seen the Game Awards, but I mean, he said it's coming. He's been teasing it so much, and I truly do think that the game is going to come out this year.
Really?
Yeah, it's been long enough. Borderlands 2, that was 2012 or 2013?
2012.
Ages ago.
I think it was 2012. They had the entire run with Borderlands 2. A few years go by, they launched Battleborn to a complete flop because I believe that was the same time Overwatch was coming out, and they were both hero shooters with similar stylish art styles. And they've dropped hints in other games even too. There was Tales from the Borderlands, and at the end of it, the bookends of Tales from the Borderlands are the furthest in the Borderlands canon that we've been, and it ends on a cliffhanger basically. So there's more coming from that end, and then there was also some hidden Easter eggs in Battleborn that directly reference Borderlands. There was a tech demo of, I believe, Unreal 4 that Randy Pitchford helmed that used Borderlands assets. So we've been teased a bunch. He even asked Elon Musk if he could put his flamethrower as a gun in the game. So it's been long enough. I think that it's going to come out this year. I think it's going to be one of those sort of things that like Bethesda kind of pioneered, where we're going to get the announcement and we're going to get the release date in the trailer.
Well, I sure hope so.
And I think I would put money down that it's coming out this year. It might be like late this year, like November, December holiday time, but I would put money down that it's going to come out this year.
But I mean, even though we're not certain about that, that's definitely something that I'll be looking forward to.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've talked for an hour and 16 minutes, so I think that is a good length for this podcast. If you enjoyed, you can look at the channel, watch some of the other podcasts, listen to the other podcasts, watch some of our other videos, and leave a like, maybe subscribe,
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
watch some more stuff. All right,
All right.
thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for
Thank
joining
you.
me.
Yeah.
And we'll see you guys in the future.